The séance at Hollow Creek Hospital, cold open, slow, whispering tone. Before I tell you what happened at Hollow Creek, I need you to understand one thing. Ghosts don't scare me. Ghosts never scared me. What scares me is the idea that something can wear a person's face, speak in a person's voice, laugh at a person's jokes, and not be that person at all. Because I lived with one for 6 weeks. And I didn't know it until it was almost too late. This is the story of Meredith Kane. My roommate. My best friend. Or at least, she used to be. Hollow Creek Regional Hospital sits about 2 miles outside a small town in upstate New York, half swallowed by pine trees that seem to lean in around it like they're trying to hide it from the road. It was built in 1954, expanded twice, and finally shut down in 1998 after a fire tore through the East Wing, the psychiatric ward, killing 3 patients and 1 nurse who refused to leave without them. The official report blamed faulty wiring. The locals never believed that. They said the fire started in a room where a patient had been performing rituals for weeks before anyone noticed, and that by the time they found her, she wasn't burned at all. She was smiling. The hospital was never demolished. Nobody wanted to pay for it. So it just stood there. Windows broken, hallways full of dead leaves, morgue drawers rusted shut. A perfect ghost story for a small town with nothing else to talk about. Which is exactly why 5 nursing students from the local college decided it would be hilarious to spend a Friday night there. I was one of them. So was Meredith. There was Josh, who filmed everything for his paranormal YouTube channel that had maybe 200 subscribers. There was Priya, who brought a real spirit board because her grandmother used to do readings back in Punjab and she'd stolen the idea shamelessly. There was Danny, who came mostly because he had a crush on Priya and would have followed her into an actual grave. And there was Meredith, steady, sarcastic, unshakable Meredith, who only agreed to come because she didn't want me going alone. We told ourselves it was a joke. A dumb dare. A story to tell at parties. We didn't know we were about to become the story. We got there around 11 p.m., climbed through a gap in the fence where the chain link had rusted through, and made our way to the East Wing, the burned one, because of course that's the one everybody wanted. The inside smelled like wet paper and something metallic underneath it, like old pennies. Our flashlights caught peeling wallpaper, a wheelchair tipped on its side, a nurse's station where the appointment book still sat open on the desk, pages soft and swollen with 50 years of humidity. Josh filmed everything, narrating in that fake serious documentary voice. Danny kept, accidentally, bumping into Priya in the dark. And Meredith walked beside me the whole time, flashlight steady, joking under her breath that if anything jumped out at us, she was using me as a human shield. We found the room by accident. It was small, smaller than the others, with a single cracked window and a metal bed frame with no mattress. The walls had markings on them. Not graffiti. Something older, scratched into the plaster with what might have been a fingernail or the edge of a spoon. Symbols. Circles inside circles. A shape that looked almost like an eye, except the pupil was actually a small doorway drawn open. Josh's flashlight caught something else, a small brass plaque, half fallen off the wall, that read, Room 14, Long-Term Observation. Priya went very quiet. She said her grandmother used to talk about rooms like this. Rooms where people didn't get better, they got used. Nobody wanted to say what came next out loud, but everybody was thinking it. Danny said it first, laughing too hard to sound casual. We have the board. We're already here. Let's do it. Meredith looked at me. I should have said no. I said, fine. 10 minutes. Then we leave. We sat in a rough circle on the dusty floor of room 14, 5 flashlights aimed at the ceiling so the light spread soft and even, the way you did for a video. Josh kept filming. Priya set the board in the middle and placed the planchette on it, her hands trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it with jokes. "If anyone's here," she said, half laughing, half serious, "we mean no disrespect. We just want to talk." For a long moment, nothing. Just 5 kids breathing too loudly in an empty room. Then the planchette moved. Not dramatically. Not like the movies. Just a small, deliberate slide, like something testing the weight of it. Danny swore under his breath that Priya was pushing it. She swore back that she wasn't. Meredith, sitting closest to the window, said nothing at all. She was staring at the wall, at the scratched symbols, like she recognized them. We sat in a rough circle on the dusty floor of room 14, 5 flashlights aimed at the ceiling so the light spread soft and even, the way you did for a video. Josh kept filming. Priya set the board in the middle and placed the planchette on it, her hands trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it with jokes. "If anyone's here," she said, half laughing, half serious, "we mean no disrespect. We just want to talk." For a long moment, nothing. Just 5 kids breathing too loudly in an empty room. Then the planchette moved. Not dramatically. Not like the movies. Just a small, deliberate slide, like something testing the weight of it. Danny swore under his breath that Priya was pushing it. She swore back that she wasn't. Meredith, sitting closest to the window, said nothing at all. She was staring at the wall, at the scratched symbols, like she recognized them. Priya asked the question every horror story asks. "Who are you?" The planchette spelled out 4 letters, slow and jagged. E-L-S. We assumed it was a name. Elsie. A nurse, maybe. A patient. Someone who died in that fire. Priya asked when she died. The planchette didn't move. She asked how she died. Nothing. She asked if she was trapped here. The planchette moved so fast it nearly flew off the board. N-O-T-A-L-O-N-E, not alone. That's when the temperature in the room dropped. Not gradually, all at once, like someone had opened a door to January in the middle of summer. Our breath started fogging. Josh's camera light flickered. And then Meredith, calm, steady Meredith, reached out and put both hands flat on the board. "Let me try," she said. Her voice sounded strange. Slightly flattened, like she was speaking through a cold. Before any of us could answer, her eyes rolled back, not all the way, just enough that we all saw white, and her whole body went rigid, arms locked straight, fingers digging into the wood of the board hard enough to leave marks. It lasted maybe 8 seconds. Then she blinked, shook her head, and laughed. "Whoa. Head rush. Weird air in here." We laughed too, nervous, relieved laughter, and decided that was enough. 10 minutes had turned into 25. We packed up, climbed back through the fence, and drove home telling ourselves it was nothing. A prank. A trick of the cold. Group hysteria. Meredith was quiet the whole ride back. She said she just had a headache. I believed her. That was my first mistake. For the first few days, everything seemed normal. Classes, coffee runs, complaining about our anatomy professor. If anything, Meredith seemed better than usual, more focused, sleeping less, acing a quiz she hadn't studied for. The small things came first. She started leaving the bathroom light on all night, something she'd never done, because she used to joke that the dark didn't bother her, only the things that hide in the light did. When I asked what that meant, she just smiled and said she was kidding. She stopped eating garlic. Refused it outright, actually pushed her plate away one night at dinner without explanation, when garlic bread had been her favorite food since freshman year. Her handwriting changed. I noticed it on a grocery list stuck to our fridge, tighter, slanted the wrong way, almost like someone had traced her signature rather than written it naturally. And her eyes. I know how that sounds. But there were moments, brief, maybe half a second, where I'd catch her looking at something in the corner of the room, something that wasn't there, with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Not fear. Recognition. Like she was greeting an old friend. I told myself I was imagining things. That the seance had spooked all of us and I was just projecting onto my best friend because my brain wanted a story to make sense of the discomfort. Then Josh called me. He said he'd been reviewing his footage from room 14 for his YouTube video, and there was something in it he needed me to see. He sounded scared in a way I'd never heard from him, Josh, who filmed himself walking into abandoned buildings for fun. We watched it together on his laptop, frame by frame. In the 8 seconds when Meredith's eyes rolled back, the footage showed something the naked eye had missed in the dark. A second shadow. Standing directly behind her. Not cast by anything in the room. Tall, too tall for the low ceiling, with its head tilted at an angle no human neck could manage. And in the 4 frames where it was clearest, you could see it wasn't standing behind Meredith. It was standing inside her. Priya, terrified but determined, went back to her grandmother, a phone call across an ocean, halting and careful because Priya barely spoke the old dialect anymore. Her grandmother didn't laugh at the story. She went quiet in a way that scared Priya more than screaming would have. She told Priya about something older than any single religion's name for it. A presence that doesn't possess a body the way movies show it, violently, obviously. It moves in slowly, replacing a person one habit, one preference, one memory at a time, like water seeping into a house through a crack nobody noticed. By the time the original person realizes something is wrong, there's almost nothing left of them to fight back with. Her grandmother called it, roughly translated, the guest who never leaves, and she said something that made Priya's blood run cold: it doesn't take just anyone. It waits for an invitation, a moment of vulnerability, a body weakened by fear or shock, a mind that briefly opens the door on its own. The seance hadn't summoned it. The seance had simply shown it an open door already ajar. And Meredith, scared, adrenaline spiking, hands pressed to a board designed for exactly that purpose, had been the one standing closest. We dug into the hospital's history next. Old newspaper archives, digitized microfilm, a local historian who ran a blog nobody read. Room 14, it turned out, had a name before the fire. The nurses called it Elsie's room, after a long-term patient who'd been there for nearly a decade in the 1980s. Elsie herself was harmless. Records suggested schizophrenia, family history of institutionalization, nothing supernatural at all. But Elsie kept a journal. And in her last entries, digitized in a local archive almost as an afterthought, she wrote about a presence she called the visitor, which she insisted had been in the room long before she arrived. Passed from patient to patient for years, decade after decade, each one eventually declared cured and released, only to disappear from their families' lives within a year. No deaths. No records of foul play. Just people who simply stopped being who they used to be. Elsie's last entry, 3 days before the fire, said only, "It's tired of me, it wants someone new. I won't let it have anyone else." She started the fire herself. Not to escape. To trap it. For 50 years, it had worked. Until 5 college students broke the seal open with a spirit board and an invitation. By week 3, I couldn't pretend anymore. Meredith wasn't Meredith. Not entirely. She started asking about our other friends by strange, oddly formal names, calling Danny, Daniel, though nobody had ever called him that. She referenced things from my childhood she shouldn't have known, small details I'd never told her, said casually in conversation like she'd simply always known them, as though something had been sifting through memories that weren't offered, only taken. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to find her sitting at the edge of my bed. Not standing over me, sitting, patient, hands folded, watching me sleep with an expression of calm, proprietary interest, like a collector admiring something not yet acquired. "You talk in your sleep," she said softly, when she saw my eyes open. "It's very interesting, all the things you're afraid of." I asked her to leave. She smiled, a smile that used every muscle of Meredith's face correctly, and somehow still looked like nothing I recognized, and said, "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. I've been in this room a lot longer than you have." That's when I understood. It wasn't threatening me directly. It was browsing. Testing which of us might be the next open door, now that Meredith's was fully claimed. I called Priya and Josh that same night. We agreed, terrified and half convinced we'd all lost our minds, that we had exactly one option: go back to Hollow Creek, back to room 14, and try to undo what the séance had opened. Priya's grandmother, on speakerphone from across the world at 4 a.m. her time, gave us instructions in a shaking voice. Salt across every threshold. The board itself needed to be present and destroyed at the source, and Meredith needed to be there too, willing or not, because whatever had taken residence would only release its grip in the place it first walked through the door. She also told us something we didn't want to hear. It wouldn't leave without taking something in exchange. We waited until Meredith fell into one of her strange, sudden naps. She'd started sleeping at odd hours, deep and immediate, almost like something inside her needed to power down to rest separately from her. And we carried her, half-conscious, into Danny's car. The drive to Hollow Creek felt longer than before. The hospital looked worse in the dark this time, not because anything had changed, but because now we knew what was waiting inside. We laid Meredith on the floor of room 14, exactly where she'd sat during the séance, and placed the same spirit board, the one Josh had never let out of his sight since that night, on her chest. Priya, hands shaking, began the ritual her grandmother described. Salt in a full circle. A recitation, half remembered, half guessed, in a language none of us fully understood, but Priya forced her mouth around anyway, tears streaming down her face. Meredith's eyes snapped open. But it wasn't panic in them. It was fury. "You don't understand what you're doing," she said, in a voice that layered, Meredith's voice, and underneath it, something older, dry and cracked, like two recordings playing at once. "I have been so patient. Decades of patience. You would deny me this?" The planchette on her chest began to move on its own, fast and violent, the way it had that first night, except this time it wasn't spelling words. It was carving them, scratching directly into the wood of the board, deep enough to splinter it. "Choose." We didn't understand at first. Then Meredith's, "No, it's." Eyes moved slowly across the circle, settling on each of us in turn. Danny. Priya. Josh. Me. It was offering a trade. Meredith's freedom, for one of us to take her place. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. And that silence, that refusal to offer up a sacrifice, was, I think, the one thing Elsie herself had understood 50 years earlier and we hadn't, until that exact moment. You don't defeat it by giving it what it wants. You defeat it by giving it nothing at all. Priya, sobbing, threw the last of the salt directly onto the board itself and finished the recitation, voice cracking on every syllable. Josh, without a word, picked up a rusted metal bed leg lying nearby and drove it straight through the center of the spirit board, splitting it in two. The temperature didn't just drop. It collapsed, like the air itself had been punched out of the room. Meredith's back arched off the floor, Her mouth opened in a scream that came out silent. No sound at all, and then, all at once, she simply went limp. For 3 full seconds, nobody breathed. Then Meredith's eyes opened again, normal this time, confused, terrified, unmistakably hers. Where am I? What happened? Why do I feel like I've been asleep for a month? She didn't remember any of it. Not the seance's aftermath, not the past 3 weeks, not the strange smile, not sitting at the edge of my bed at 3 a.m. To her, no time had passed at all since that first night in room 14. We got her out of that hospital and never went back. Meredith recovered, mostly. She still gets headaches on cold nights. She still, to this day, leaves the bathroom light on, an old habit she can't explain and doesn't remember starting. We never told her everything. What would be the point? Some doors, once you understand what's on the other side of them, are better left unopened even in memory. Josh deleted his footage. All of it. He shut down the YouTube channel a month later and has never explained why to his remaining 200 subscribers. Priya still calls her grandmother every week now. Not out of guilt. Out of gratitude. As for me, I think about that one word carved into the board more than I'd like to admit. Choose. It wanted one of us to offer ourselves willingly. That's the part that still keeps me up some nights. Not the shadow standing inside my best friend. Not the 50 years it spent waiting behind a scorched, sealed door. It's the fact that it asked so calmly. Like it already knew, eventually, someone always says yes. We got lucky. We said no, together, at the exact same moment. I don't know if Hollow Creek Hospital is empty now, or if something is still waiting in room 14 for the next group of curious strangers foolish enough to bring a board and an open mind into a room that was sealed shut for a reason. But if you ever find yourself standing in front of an old abandoned building, and someone jokes about going inside just to see what's there, say no, not because there's nothing inside. Because there might be exactly what's looking for you. End.